In this visualization, we'll take a look at how to create a control chart using the rigorous method in Tableau. So, let's learn some Tableau. I've gone back and created a new worksheet, and I'm connected to the same data source I was using, the career statistics of the hockey player Paul Coffey. I'm also interested in creating a rigorous method control chart examining his plus minus over his career. We start out the same way as we do in the quick method. I've added season to columns, and I'll add the plus minus to rows, and then change that to a line. After changing to the line, I drag once again the plus minus from the measures and put it on the row shelf, creating two charts. When I do that, I right-click here and click Dual Axis. Then I right-click here and I would synchronize the axis. I right-click in here and synchronize the axis. One of the other elements that I did was I also decided to go into here. If you'll see in these marks, right? I've changed this one from line to circle. So I went from line to circle. And then you synchronize. You always synchronize. Then I create a third instance. So I drag the plus minus figure back to the row shelf a third time and create this new chart. From there, I'll create a calculated field. In the calculated field I want to create is called moving range. So I take moving range and I create the calculated field. I will attach the calculation you use for moving range and list it. You'll see it listed in Canvas. And when you create that calculated field, it looks like this. So now I've created that calculated field. Called moving range. If I was to look at the moving range, here's the calculation. And so by taking moving range, I create that calculation. I made the moving range chart a double axis chart. And I will once again use the line and circle marks like I did up top. And do the same synchronization. And one of the other things that I will also need to do is create a upper control limit and lower control limit for the top and an upper control limit for this bottom one here. So I'll make those calculated ones first. I've included the calculations in Canvas for you so you can get right to creating. And if you want to review through the mathematics on your own time, you can do that. So you'll see my creations here. And they are called the MR_UCL, which is the moving range, upper control limit, then the general upper control limit, and the lower control limit. I drag these three to the detail in all. You'll see all. I drag it to the detail level in all. Synchronize. So I right click here and I synchronize axis. You'll see that's been done. And so now I have my moving range as well as my plus minus up top. And now I need to create another set of calculated fields. One is called signals, which I use for the top chart. The other is called the MR signals, which I use in the bottom chart. What this will do is I'm going to try to use a color coding. I'll use some computer coding, and that will tell these to turn colors in certain situations. So I create, before I do that, my average line. So I walk into each area and drag the average over like I've done in the past. Same thing here. Then I drag my average upper control there. My lower control here. And my MR/UCL up here, and you'll see those created here. Now, I create my calculated field, which is the individuals chart signals, and I create another one for the MR chart down here for signals. Then I drag them also over to the color box in the marks card for the upper and for the lower. Then I spread this out to the right. And what I have now is I can even expand this some more. Take these filters and move this over here. And now move this even further right. And what I see is a rigorous control chart. And that way my signals are in range. Everything is well in range. You'll see how each one is identified. So that's a quick way of reviewing how to create the rigorous method control chart. And I use this. If you want to break this down into even more steps, we can. But many of you are doing so well, I figured I would move this on through, and we will just name it Okay. These are pretty robust and are applicable in a number of situations. Like I said, once again, I've got the coding in documentation for you on Canvas. So if you want to follow along with the data set, you can. So now you've learned two ways of creating a control chart. Quick and rigorous. Two very common visualizations that you may use in your organization. I've used it for my own whimsy here in evaluating one of my favorite NHL players. However, this can be used for any number of very serious business applications. As I've said before, KPI charts, customer charts, things like that. Sales, manufacturing is very well known and used to make sure that variations are minimized. And what I can do is, as I start to see these signals, then try to identify why we have these variations and get to the root of the problem. But having these kinds of data, especially as when we talk about dashboards, doing something like this in a dashboard format will be incredibly helpful for ongoing business analysis or analysis in just about any field.